Okay, so thank you everyone for joining us today. This is Coffee and Contract Express episode 2. And today we are very lucky. We are joined by the lovely Angela from Cooley, and she's the Best Practice Innovation Specialist at Cooley, and she'll be talking to us today about how to intake an automation project and the pitfalls of perfection in automation. So before we make a start, I'd like to thank you to all of those that completed the questionnaire following episode 1. We really appreciate your feedback. And if you did miss that, you still have an opportunity to share your feedback. We'd really like to learn more about what you would like to hear about on these sessions, and also if you have any other ideas around how things that we can discuss on the call, or other areas that you would be interested in. So I'm going to hand over to Julie and Angela, and we hope you enjoy the call. And following the discussion, you'll have an opportunity to ask questions. You can do that by either raising a hand, which is an option on the Teams chat, or on the Teams chat, or raise a hand, and we can unmute the lines for a discussion. So thank you, everyone, and over to Julie and Angela.
Thanks, Joe, and thanks everyone for joining us today. As Joe said, we're really lucky today to have Angela as our featured guest. Angela is a practice innovation specialist at Cooley, and Angela, thanks for joining us. And I guess we'll start off. I have your bio up on the screen, but if you want to tell everyone a little bit about yourself and how you came to work with Contract Express.
Okay, well, happy to be here, Julie. Let's see how I came to Contract Express. I started off as a drafting paralegal in estate planning and private wealth clients, so taxation, nonprofit organizations. And as I was working as a paralegal, I became the keeper of the forms. And those forms are very long. There's a lot of documents that are involved in what we call a package. And I started writing macros back when there was WordPerfect, and continued when Word came along. And then began using a product called HotDocs a long time ago, and that's just kind of evolved into taking some programming classes, that kind of thing. And then I started working on the vendor side, and with Business Integrity, which created Contract Express, and then Thomson Reuters bought Business Integrity, so I worked with Thomson Reuters for a little while, and then came back on the law firm side. And that's when Brad Newman picked me up over here at Cooley, and I've been working with our practice groups here at Cooley to develop, more document automation projects and workflows, automation of workflows, and helping them just automate everything at Cooley. So it's a little bit about myself.
Okay, and so let's jump in now to the meat of our discussion today. And Angela, when you and I were talking about what we could discuss as part of this coffee session, we came up with sort of two things, which are on the screen now: our project onboarding and the pitfalls of perfection. So I want to start off with the project onboarding. Now, knowing that Cooley is more of a sophisticated, advanced user of Contract Express, I know that you still have teams that you are continuing to onboard new users. So do you have any musts that you have when you're starting a project?
Yeah, I do. Here at Cooley, our group has evolved, the Practice Innovation Group has evolved into like a consultancy that partners with practice groups. So when we onboard a new practice group that has no experience with document automation, we have a call with them, like an onboarding call. We want to know what their idea
Angela, sorry, could you unmute your line?
Angela, I think we lost you there for a moment.
I'm unable to unmute Angela's line. I've tried to do that. Angela, I think you might need to do that yourself if you can.
I think I see that her phone. Are you back, Angela? Little technical difficulty here. I think Angela is dialing back in, so we'll pause just for a moment and get her back on the line and go from there. The pitfalls of all of us working at home. I'm sure we're all experiencing this a little bit. Angela, do we have you back? Angela, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so, well, welcome back. We can hear you.
Well, you sound okay. I could just go in the old-fashioned way with my computer audio.
So, all right. Well, we can hear you now. So we were just talking about, you were starting to talk about the way that you approach a project and the musts that you need from users when you're starting off a project.
Okay. So bringing on a new practice group. We have a meeting. We listen to what they want to do. And then the first thing we ask for is a form. So the two things we need when we start a project is forms and a subject matter expert. So because we work with the practice groups and as a consultancy, we are not the subject matter experts when they bring us their work product. So we need that subject matter expert that's going to work with us. So the forms, let's talk about forms for a minute. So we need a form or forms. So there's usually, with our practice groups, we usually have like a package of documents that work together. So when we talk to them about the forms, if they do not have a form that they have marked up with optional language, with text to be inserted, they will have to go back to the drawing board and produce that form for us. The forms with the markups, they're things like brackets with company name, company address, director names. There's also brackets around text or clauses that will either, the text will either stay in the document or be removed from the document. And the content, the comments around that of when that text is going to come in and when that text isn't going to, or is going to come out. And these markups become the building blocks for the questions that we're going to build in the questionnaire. We also need optional language, like if there's an option A, B, or C that comes in, we need to know how that language works together. So once we got the form or forms, then we will start the project. So we talked about packages, and we want to know what the kernel of the package is. What's the starting point, and then we can actually start to build on those packages. And then the subject matter expert. That's a must-have. Well, forms is a must-have, but if we don't have a subject matter expert, the project it doesn't seem to get off the ground. The project takes too long. We can't go any further. We'll do our bit, and then we need somebody else to be working with or answer questions. So we require that up front. If the practice group doesn't assign a subject matter expert, we wait until they do.
And with the subject matter expert, are they helping you to test?
Yes, they are. So the subject matter experts will, will answer the questions to help us translate the form into a template. They'll also help us with the wording of the questions to follow the practice group jargon. And then the subject matter expert also helps with testing, or they actually help get volunteers from the practice group to test. So there's a couple ways we can work with them.
Okay. Now, as you mentioned earlier, and for those of you who don't know, Angela used to be on our team here at TR, so Angela and I know each other pretty well. And I heard you speak a couple years back at ILTA on a document automation panel, and you talked a little bit about what I've termed for today's discussion, the pitfalls of perfection. So when you're working with those subject matter experts and they want those templates to be perfect, what are your suggestions to everyone on the call, or what are your best practices around getting more immediate ROI and sort of dissuading people from wanting that perfection as an immediate?
Okay. Well, so here at Cooley, most of our internal projects are a first draft. So we use Contract Express as a first drafting tool. So we kind of follow like an 80-20 rule where, we'll automate 80% of the forms and leave the 20% that's more bespoke to be drafted after the fact. So with that in mind, when we do bring on the practice group or the stakeholders for the project, we'll have a discussion with them. We'll have a call. We'll listen to all of their wish list. We take copious notes, and then we ask for the MVP to help scale down the initial phase. So what we do is we automate in phases. So phase 1 is that MVP. What are the just the beginnings of the automation that's going to give you the biggest win. So sometimes we'll get some pushback on it. Like they want everything in the kitchen sink in it. They think to have value, they have to automate the whole entire thing. But that's counterproductive. So what we try to talk to them about and kind of push back a little bit is that we want the quickest ROI. So we're gonna start small, and we're going to iterate on that process. It helps with testing fatigue. So if you're going to try to automate everything, the content expert they're not an automator. They're not a app tester. They're not, their brain doesn't usually work that way. So it really helps that, they've developed a form and that we are going to automate a small portion of the form, and then they're going to use that to help them test and get through the testing process. So the more you automate, the more that content expert isn't going to have the time to get through the testing. The next thing is that you get more eyes on it faster. So the shorter the automation phases and getting it out there in the user's hands, you will actually get more, you'll have more garner for more volunteers to help develop it further. So then you'll just have people coming at you and saying, okay, well, I found this, and oh, it would be nice to automate this. So you do get a lot more people involved in the project, the excitement, they know, they see, and they're actually surprised at just how a little automation will help them and make things more efficient, and they get the job done quicker, and they get to their drafting part quicker. So so that really, we've found that that really helps. It creates excitement around the project, and then they can start testing while they're doing client work. So they're billing while testing and while giving us feedback and giving us some of their clauses that they're drafting. So it also helps with knowledge management and just practice engagement and collaboration. Well, I hope that answered your question.
It did. Thank you so much. And as part of this sort of Coffee and Contract Express idea, one of the big pieces of feedback was that we wanted to make sure that we are enabling all of you to connect and ask questions and share your own insights on the topic. So with that, we'd like to open the floor to everyone on the call to either ask Angela a question or share an insight that's similar to what she's talking about or on the same topic. So as Joe said earlier, you can click the raise your hand button and we'll unmute you. And I guess Joe's going to go through and do that. And so I see we already have at least one hand raised.
Excellent. Yes. So I can't unmute the users. So if Leslie could kindly unmute.
I'm unmuted. Angela, could you give me an example of just automating a small piece of a document, like a concrete example?
An example, like, are you talking about the markup or?
Well, when you say you just do like a small piece and that's helpful and that lets them.
Okay, so when I talk about a small, I didn't mean a small piece. I misspoke. I'm sorry. We automate a small portion of the document. So say that I don't know, they come in with a stockholder agreement.
Mm-hmm.
And they want to automate all these provisions and down to like the sentences, and what we say is, okay, what's going to be the bare minimum? What's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck? Like, what are the things that you have to touch the most? So company name, company address, company phone number, company, all of the client specific information, maybe a couple of big optional clauses that they're working with a lot. And then what we'll do is we'll actually keep that markup in the document for drafting notes. So you can automate where we say, do you want to, at the front when we release the document, the package or template, then we have buttons that we'll ask them, do you want to include drafting notes or do you want to exclude drafting notes? So we can include drafting notes. We can, so we keep part of the markup for further drafting until we get through the phases, and we start to, we automate most of the document.
Oh, so the markup will say like, here, ask this question, and if this is the case, then so it's sort of like primitive guidance.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so we talk about a form and comments and marking up a form to help automate it. We are talking about drafting notes and guidance. What we see in, when we get a form out of the legal books, the drafting books.
Great, that's very interesting.
Great, thank you for that question, Leslie. So now over to Cindy. Would you like to unmute your line?
I'm not sure I can.
We can hear you.
Oh, you can. Okay, good. Yes, my question revolves around how have you been able to, or what is the adoption rate of document automation at your firm? How have you been able to get people to adopt that? Because the challenge we've run into is we do demos and show them all the benefits and the efficiencies and whatnot, but then you still have lawyers who think, well, that's not the way I've done it, and I bill on the hour, and this is going to cut out, the amount of hours I can build, without thinking about the efficiencies of moving on to maybe higher value work. Do you have any best practices on how you've been able to convince lawyers to kind of take that leap and start automating?
Yes. So there's a number of, it works differently for each practice group, and for each actually person. what's going to resonate with them. What we've done here is, and it was done prior to them bringing me on board. I was brought on board to kind of, once things started getting off, taken off at Cooley, more practice groups were requesting things, and so they needed, somebody that can come on and onboard the clients. Clients. Well, we call them clients. We do treat attorneys as clients. But I would say, I do know that here at Cooley, we have part of the KM team and the innovation team at the attorney retreats, talking to them about the benefits of automation. We also have, once you get one practice group up and running, we use that practice group as an example, because attorneys are very competitive. The other thing is you talk to them and you say, okay, well, how many hours are written off during the drafting process, and how long does it take your attorneys to draft, to prepare these documents? And then you get them thinking about, and they don't always believe in the savings of time. So you have to kind of get them to think about that first. Like, okay, and what are you using? What would be your biggest win in your practice group? Where are you writing off time? Because that's kind of where we see the benefit is that there's these high output documents. There is some write-off time, and we need to remind them that this is a first draft tool. There's still going to need to be drafting done, and that helps. Let's get them in there. Let's get everybody using the same documents, so your attorneys are starting with the latest and greatest. You only have one place to go to update the forms. You're going to reduce their time or their secretary's time on trying to get the formatting correct. All of those little things that do cause write-off time. So that's kind of where we, how we approach it with the practice groups.
Okay, great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I think we're reaching the end of our time together today. So, Angela, I want to first thank you so much for being our guest and sharing your insights. And thanks to Leslie and Cindy for those questions. And we will look to put another Coffee and Contract Express on your calendars for June. So look out for an invitation. And as a reminder, some information on contact info for both Joe and for myself, as well as our support team. And a reminder that there is the Contract Express knowledge base, where you can get lots of guides and look up information in terms of some authoring information and connect with users across the globe. So I'm going to hand it over to Joe to close us out for today.
Thanks, Julie, and thank you again, Angela, for joining us today. So yeah, as Julie said, there's the contact information, and if you have any other questions, then please reach out to me. And also, again, just to remind you that your feedback is really valued, and I'll be sending out a questionnaire by the end of this week to just gather some more information. We'll keep it very short and simple to just gather some more information to help inform these sessions going forward. And any data provided will always be anonymised, so that we can just provide a broad brush stroke of where firms are in their current document automation journey. For example, in the UK, I'm gathering some data, and I can tell you that the global large law firms in the UK have between 100 and 400 to 500 documents, all templates set up or documents automated within Contract Express. So that's the kind of broad brush that I would like to provide back to this group, so that everyone knows that we're at different stages in that automation journey, and help you accelerate that with adoption and best practice. So yes, that's the end of the session today. So thank you again for your time, and we look forward to catching up with you again next month. Take care. Bye.